Hello, everyone. You are listening to In the Company of Charity podcast. My name is Sister Liz, and I'm here with my friend Sister Elizabeth. And great news, we're actually in the same physical location.
That's
today.
right. We know you guys love to hear when we're together, and so we are face to face right now because we're both here in Evansville during a retreat. I'm guiding the retreat.
And I'm in it.
In it. She's being guided.
Yes, yeah. I'm sitting at the feet. And we just heard that in the gospel, and it's a great, great gospel. The one thing necessary. That's the Lord.
That's right.
Sitting
That's
at
right.
Jesus' feet. It's the one thing necessary. So.
Yeah, and so it's a great time. It's Evansville is a beautiful place, and I'm really having a good time directing or guiding this retreat on St. Louise de Marillac. So
it's great. It's been a great experience.
Yeah, I'm having fun.
Today was my favorite quote, which was something like, "The Lord knows how to find you when he wants more from you."
That's
basically
right.
Like that.
Yeah. It was when he has something else for you to do. The Lord knows where to find you. Yeah. So just stay on mission where you are, and when he's ready, and
God is in the present
for you
moment.
to serve somewhere else, he knows where to get you and where to find you. I love that. I just think Louise has just these little one-liners that can either be heard kind of sarcastically or lovingly, however you are in the mood for them, I guess, or how you're feeling that day. But I just find her absolutely fascinating. For a woman of the 1600s, she has a wit and a smarts about her, and she just talks to the sisters in such a beautiful way. So I really enjoy giving this retreat.
Well, and one of the things that you've said a couple times during the experience is that the reason we have these letters is because the sisters saved them.
Yeah, exactly.
And for whatever reason, what Louise said or the advice she gave or whatever it was, they felt compelled to hold on to these letters.
These letters are almost 400 years old. I mean,
it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous how when I think about just like now, I mean, you forget something, you put it in the washing machine, you forget a note in your pocket, and it's like destroyed, right? These are letters written 400 years ago, and they've been handed down and handed down and handed down, and we are so blessed to have Louise's thoughts, her instructions, her just her heart. It's just totally her heart and how she speaks to the sisters. It's just beautiful, and we're so blessed. We're just so blessed.
There are so many letters that when people were told to bring that volume with them,
656 letters, 110 reflections in this book. Oh my
gosh.
Yeah. And they did. Everybody complained. Bring that big book.
Name another community that has as much correspondence as St. Vincent de Paul and St. Louise de Marillac.
Yeah.
Exist.
If we were doing St. Vincent de Paul, it's 10 volumes, right? At least Louise only has one book. It might be hefty, it's a little bit bigger than your Bible, but that is what we know about them, is what they wrote to each other, what they wrote to other people. And I just think that sense of that letter writing is so interesting because there is just an honesty in it. They're trying to get a message across quickly. So they're not pontificating, although sometimes they go off a little bit, but it's just right there, and it's specific to a person or specific to a situation. So you just really get like what was happening at the moment. I just think it's great. I love it. I love it. I've just had such a, it just has brought me so much deeper into appreciating who St. Louise as our foundress, is, and how much of what she wanted for the community still exists. Like, I think one of the questions I haven't asked yet, but I will, is, do you think Louise would recognize the company now? Could she walk in and sit down with us and hear us talk about our life as daughters of charity, and would she recognize it as the company she founded? I think she would. I think she would, which is beautiful. That to me is a powerful message.
And what a great way to sort of wrap up this season as we do. We're heading into a mini break.
We are.
And
we need it.
We'll be coming back in September around the Feast of St. Vincent. And I just think that in particular this time and then this interview with Rachel is so great, just a great way to wrap up the year and talk about our spirit and talk about the change that we're trying to affect for the people who are in need. And so maybe you want to say a couple things about your experience of this interview. But
yeah. Well, Rachel is a new member of the Vincentian family. She's not a daughter of charity, but she has the heart of service and charity and the heart of, I think, the charism for sure. And she just started working with us on the social justice issues. So we have these corporate stances where we make kind of public statements about what we hope to do about some really major social justice issues: homelessness, racism, hunger, all different kinds of areas within the spectrum of social justice. And she is assisting us, in a lot of ways, helping the sisters
sort
really
of behind
focus.
the scenes type stuff.
Yeah, and really helping us find a way to address those issues in a public way, in a way that says these are big concerns of ours, and also to help educate us on those issues. Especially, if somebody's working in one area, they may not know that much about another, And so her job really is to assist us in addressing these issues and really bringing them out to the fore in the communities that we're in, and helping to coordinate and facilitate events and activities, education experiences, that kind of thing. And so really it's exciting, and she's exciting. I mean, I just enjoyed talking with her, and she just has definitely the heart of a servant, and that to me was, really came out strong in the interview.
And you guys can find out all that information on our website, all the corporate stances. And, I think one thing that is really cool about our community and our charism is that you can find that you're passionate about certain things. You don't have to be passionate about everything. But you might say, you know what, like hunger really is something that I care a lot, very deeply about, so let me go learn about that or read up on it and see what the Daughters of Charity have to say about that, or any of the other, areas for that matter. So as always, we are just so grateful as we're going to be wrapping up to have you guys listen and to get your feedback. So we certainly hope that you keep in touch, send us your ideas, companyofcharity@gmail.com, and we hope you enjoy this episode.
I am delighted today to be in the company of Rachel Moccia, who is a new employee, a new member of the family of the Daughters of Charity. She's working with us in the area of social justice, and she's currently living in New York. And so we're really delighted because I am still in New York for 2 more weeks, and then I'll be leaving to go to St. Louis. And I'm sure that she will come there sometime to visit. So all that to say, welcome, Rachel, to the podcast. And I am going to ask you to tell us your title and your position, because it's kind of long. Yeah, but it says everything, and it
says it all.
Yeah, it does. So tell us your title, and then tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got here, and then I really want to get into the work that's being done around social justice issues, around the corporate stances of the Daughters of Charity, and just of these subcommittees that we're going to talk about today. All a structure that's been put in place so that the Daughters of Charity have a voice, have action, and have a place in the conversation around social justice. So it's all yours.
Great. Yeah, thanks for having me. So yes, as you said, my title, I think it's long, but it does really describe everything. So my title is Director of the Office of Justice, Peace, and Integrity of Creation for the Daughters of Charity USA. So quite a mouthful, but it's all in there. So, I mean, in short, I work to support the sisters in both provinces in the U.S. as they, work toward justice and peace. So it's all in there.
Yes. And so we should say that there are two provinces.
Yeah.
Provinces are kind of headquarters or gatherings of sisters in regions in the country. Daughters of Charity have 90 something provinces around the world, maybe not as many as that right now, but and all of these provinces work in particular local areas, kind of like dioceses almost. They have that kind of model. And so there are two in the United States. The province of St. Louis is kind of the Midwest over to the East Coast, right? If you're looking at the middle of the country. And so that is the province that I belong to. That's the province you live in, basically, because you're in New York. Then there's the province of St. Elizabeth Ann Seton, which is mostly the West Coast. So just to give people some perspective of the expanse of where your job covers. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I started with the daughters back at the end of March of 2022, and came most recently from Catholic Relief Services, where I was for almost 7 years, working in sort of education and outreach around the international justice issues that CRS focused on. So I was doing a lot of work with leadership development and advocacy, grassroots advocacy, really helping Catholics and others of goodwill across the country to mobilize and advocate for change on behalf of our global family. So I was there for 7 years, and before that was working on my MDiv. I have a Master of Divinity. And during that time, I was working with the Archdiocese of Hartford, Connecticut's Office for Social Justice. So I'm absolutely delighted to be working with the daughters. My first, what has it been, like 3-ish, almost 4 months now, and it has just been wonderful.
Oh, we're so delighted.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. that was so nunny, right? Oh, we're so delighted. Oh, it's great. It's great. Yeah, I am delighted because we're busy women and we get involved in a lot of work, lots of different things. I'm involved in refugee work. People are involved in prison ministry. Sisters are running food pantries and, visiting the sick in hospitals. And we're doing a lot of things, and we don't always see that what we're doing has not just a local impact, but in many ways, those local impacts have a wider global impact as well. And sometimes it feels like what I'm doing with the few people I have in front of me doesn't really affect anything bigger than this. But the witness of what we do and the ways in which we then can advocate for people beyond those who we serve, or advocate for the issues that brought somebody to the vulnerability that they are currently in, that those are the areas that we're trying to address. And that is this office that you are now the director of, which is very, very exciting. So tell us a little bit about the structure. So realizing, our listeners are non-daughters of charity. There are daughters of charity listening who are still trying to figure out what this structure is. And there are daughters of charity who are very, very involved. So tell us a little bit about what the structure looks like, subcommittees that are involved. What are the areas? This is a big question. What are the areas that we cover or that we have chosen to make a stance on, to say this is important to us?
Sure. And even before I get into that, I do just want to affirm what you were saying too about just the power of the witness and ministry of the daughters and of individual daughters too. I think that that's been something that has been so striking to me in my first months here, has been that the daughters do incredible work. Each of you and as a collective, that's really, really important, and that helps so many people. But also, as you said, that, frontline experience, that experience of um, of encounter, of knowing the realities of what's happening on the ground with what can be very nebulous issues that can be kind of hard to grasp, and that can get easily boiled down to talking points. I mean, you have the experience and the knowledge, and that encounter that really can make a difference, and is really, I mean, believe it or not, is really what our legislators, both at the state and the federal level, want to hear. They want to hear those real stories, because it helps to, be able to put your arms around an issue and to be able to grasp it. And so yes, I mean, I think that not only, is there, are you making a tremendous difference, at the local level, but those local experiences really do have such power to transform, entire communities, states, and nations. So
Yeah. Well, thank
just
you.
wanted to affirm that, because I think
Yeah.
that's one of the things that has been so exciting about this work.
Well, thank you for that. That is affirming, and I hope that we continue to see that and grow in our own understanding of who we are as women, and as witnesses to not just the lifestyle of a religious woman. I mean, we understand that we're often kind of seen as separate in some ways, and to know and to be able to say to ourselves, we are members of this society. We are voting members, we are living in the world, and we are working with people often who have their rights kind of stepped on at times, and their liberties or their freedoms and their ability to pursue the happiness that our country says is for them, is for everyone. And so so we're always walking that fine line, and so that's why, again, I think, again, back to the bigger question of how the Daughters of Charity in the United States have kind of looked at that expanse of vulnerability, the places in which people fall through the cracks of society and of systems, right? And we've chosen a few. We're not going to save everybody and everywhere, but we've taken on some pretty big topic areas, and so so just talk a little bit about those.
Sure. Yeah. So so as you said, there are specific subcommittees that are focused on particular issues that the Daughters of Charity have picked to really focus on. And as you said, even though we've sort of honed our focus on particular issues, there's still enormous issues. So there are 6 of them, and I'll name them off now. So they're care of earth, homelessness and insecure housing, human trafficking, hunger, immigration, and racism. I think that's all 6. Yes.
Yes.
I was just counting on my hands as I was naming them. So I should say all of these subcommittees are comprised of sisters from across the country, which is really great to see. Daughters from across the country, from those 2 different U.S. provinces, coming together to bring, their different perspectives and experiences. So the subcommittees, and the reason that they're called subcommittees is that the chairs of each of these subcommittees are on what we call our Advocacy and Social Justice Committee. So they kind of oversee the coordination of kind of across the different subcommittees, and the Advocacy and Social Justice Committee, part of the purpose too is to kind of, help the chairs, have the chairs have space to support one another and, share best practices as they're, running their subcommittees on these different issues. So that's why they're called subcommittees. So anyway, but the way that they function is the sisters come together regularly, either once a month, every other month, depending on their schedule. And they kind of pick different activities and things that they think will help the sisters in the United States, all of the sisters in the United States, to live out what we call a corporate stance. So I think you alluded to this, Sister Elizabeth, but each of these issues that we have selected and that there are subcommittees for have an intentional stance on that issue, and you can actually read them on our websites if you're interested in what those stances say. But basically, the subcommittee's job is really to think through, where are our sisters at with these different issues? What's been in the news? Do we need to, kind of have an educational event? Do we want to have a particular push on a particular piece of legislation that Congress is negotiating right now? So really, the job of the subcommittees is to, sort of look at the news, look at the life of the daughters, and discern and figure out what is it that we need to do in order to move forward on the ways in which we are, for example, caring for Earth. So my role in all of this is really to be a system of support to these subcommittees, and I think it's truly incredible. I mean, some of these meetings are late at night or in the middle of a day, and if you know Daughters of Charity, they are busy women, both with ministries, but also with other kind of volunteer roles, with serving in their houses, with any number of things, and the fact that these daughters have stepped forward and said, I really care about this issue, and I want to show leadership, take on leadership for the daughters in the U.S. On this particular issue, is just, it's just incredible. So my role is really to provide support. So, whatever the subcommittees need in order to kind of make their visions happen. So I'll give a concrete example because I think it's a little helpful. A few of our subcommittees recently have, hosted different speakers on their issues and invited other Daughters of Charity, or even folks outside of the daughters, non-daughters, to come and learn more about a particular issue. So we recently had the CEO and executive director of St. Vincent Meals on Wheels, which is based in Los Angeles, come and talk about food insecurity in Los Angeles, and what the reality is there, and how the organization serves people. So I think, it's just, there's a number of things that the subcommittees do. Our racism subcommittee recently co-hosted an event with our diversity, equity, and inclusion steering committee to help the sisters kind of reflect on, racial inequity in the United States, and ways in which, we have been a part of it, knowingly or unknowingly. So, I think that the work of the subcommittees can take a lot of different forms. Is it a workshop? Is it a speaker? Is it, supporting sisters as they write to their members of Congress or call their members of Congress? But it's really, the creativity and the discernment of the sisters on these subcommittees that's really driving, what the vision is, and how we're trying to achieve, enlivening these corporate stances and really living them out so that they're not just documents and words.
Yeah, that was a great explanation. I know some people probably think, well, that was clear. But I also realize it is huge, and what you're doing, your role in facilitating and helping to coordinate the work of the sisters is really, really so helpful. I know that because these events take a lot of back work as well. So there's a lot of tech work that has to happen that we're not always right up on, and there's the administrative pieces of this too that I know the sisters appreciate. The minutes to the meetings are recorded and are kept so that they can go back and say, well, what did we say we were going to do about that? Or what am I going to do next week? Or what am I supposed to be involved in? Or what next Zoom am I supposed to be on to have this conversation? And so all of that I realize, as you're saying it, as you're talking about it, this is big. And it has to be, because it is our life. We're daughters of charity, servants of the poor. Our life is to be given to God in service of those who are suffering, given to God in community. So we do this together. And so all of those pieces go together. And so I recognize that your assistance in that is so vital. And I know we appreciate it so much. So you talked a little bit about the corporate stance, and I just happen to have in front of me one of the corporate stances, and they're relatively long. I mean, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but they are public statements.
Yes.
So this is not just an internal, hey, sisters, we want to do this. A public stance, a corporate stance, and we don't like using corporate-y words, but it is a stance in which we say we collectively have said this is how we want to help address this issue, because we see it in front of us. We see that it needs more than just us, but we want to engage in the conversations, in the remedies, in the system changes, and all of the things that have to happen in order to eradicate hunger. That just happens to be the one I pulled out. So I just want to read kind of the beginning and a little brief of it, so that people can get an idea of what this corporate stance, which one of the 6 might sound like. So it says, believing that hunger is preventable and food security is basic to quality of life, the Daughters of Charity of St. Vincent de Paul of the United States and Canada adopt a unified plan toward eradicating hunger for the most vulnerable in society today, children and the elderly. And then below that, we will do this through supporting food assistance programs, advocating policymakers, leveraging resources, communicating available resources, educating caregivers and family members, and praying, always praying. I think every corporate stance ends with prayer. So that's just one example. I'm just wondering, when you first took the role and you sat and you read these, what was your sense of the deeper role for you in helping us to find that path, to assist us in that? But by assisting us, Daughters of Charity, you've become part of that group, right? And so your assistance isn't just for us. It's not like, well, we have Rachel and she helps us. How do you see your role expanding your own sense of how you can be effective in the areas of social justice, which you've given so much of your own life to?
And it's just such a gift to me to be able to be supporting the daughters in this work, because, like I said, I mean, I am just continually inspired by your work and your example. And I think that, one of the thing that's very exciting to me is the fact that I truly do believe that, your, on the ground experiences, your encounters really do have, the potential to change unjust structures. That voice is so important and so powerful. And, I know sometimes it may not feel this way, but legislators want to hear those stories. They truly do. So I think that, what is such a gift to me, and what has been so energizing to me in my kind of, as I think about, as I'm supporting the daughters in this important work, I'm supporting the potential for real change for people who are vulnerable and in vulnerable situations. It's truly a gift. And I'm so excited to be doing it.
What I'm thinking as you're speaking and realizing, again, we just keep talking about how big this is. I mean, I'm reading this and saying, we want to eradicate hunger.
I know.
Like that's not, I'm looking at some of the others, one on advocacy. It's embracing biblical tradition and Catholic commit to promoting policies and actions in our society that welcome, protect, promote, and integrate immigrants. Again, the words coming from the Holy Father, to welcome, protect, and promote the integration of immigrants into our country. Again, simple. Those are. I realize they are life changing and ongoing, and they will be things that we will be engaged in until we have eradicated hunger. We will be there till the end. In our own commitment, and so I think our own appreciation for you to be part of that with us helps us too to recognize that we are not in this by ourselves. That lay people around the world are in this work as well, and it is going to be our collaborative effort that as we engage the church, as we engage the wider community in front of us, that we also need to engage our legislators in deep and respectful but impactful ways. So I know each Monday, it's Friday, comes out somewhere else. Each Monday, you put out a social justice link that gives us some information. So tell us a little bit about how that gets curated. How do you create this list because obviously you can't send out everything that these subcommittees are doing, because it would just be, we would never read it. It would just be too much. We'd say, I don't have the time to read this. So in some ways you're trying to bring down to a level in which I can on Monday morning check my email, and you've put out for us a way in which I can engage. So talk a little bit about how you and the sisters, have created this to say, this Monday, we want you to focus on this, and these are some actions you can take. Tell us what that kind of looks like.
So there are 2 newsletters, one for each of those U.S. provinces, the Social Justice Link and the Social Justice Dispatch, but they contain pretty similar content. The only difference really between the two is if there's something regional that is really pressing, that is applicable in one province or the other. But generally their content is the same. And really the philosophy behind the newsletter is, like you said, it comes out first thing Monday morning. And so the hope is that, as, the sisters are starting their week, they have a short newsletter with a few articles in it that either invite them to pray, to learn about an issue, or to take a specific action. And, kind of the rule of thumb that I did not come up with, this was someone else's great idea, but is to always keep it, when we're drafting, keep it to one page in Microsoft Word, because otherwise, as you said, it just gets overwhelming. If there's too much information, if there are too many articles. So really trying to keep it short. Usually there's like 4 or 5 items. So the way that it actually gets developed is highly collaborative. So part of it is that I monitor, kind of other newsletters, action alert lists that I'm on, different coalitions that we're a part of, things from, the Vincentian family, and, kind of combing through those on an ongoing basis. And I kind of have a running list of things that are, not as urgent, and could be used at any time if it's, a good feature that sort of explains a particular issue or talks about, here are some advocacy tips or things like that. So I kind of have a running list that I can return to, as well as, those more pressing items that are coming out, the week or 2 previous. And, kind of start to compile a draft. The other really important source of stories, articles, actions, are those subcommittees. So members of the subcommittees, as well as the subcommittee chairs, will email me things throughout the week, because sometimes they're, on lists that I'm not on, or they they just, tend to have such a good pulse. These are issues that they are passionate about. And so they have a really good pulse on what's going on right now with a particular issue. So a lot of times I'll get submissions from the subcommittees, and those are great and wonderful to include. So yeah, so I sort of compile a draft and send it through for edits and additions, subtractions, and then we send it out each Monday. And I think the other thing to say about both of these newsletters is that, they're arranged by subcommittee. So they're sort of arranged by topic. So, there's, not every subcommittee is featured every week. It's sort of, what's most timely, what makes most sense. But they are categorized and sort of titled by topic so that, if sisters only have a few minutes and, they happen to be really passionate about care of earth, for example, they see a title that says care of earth and, they go directly to that one. Of course, the hope is that, folks will at least glance at, the other areas as well. But it also helps that, we know that, people are passionate about and work on different issues. And so being able to really tailor that so that, folks can easily learn and take action on issues that are most important to them, either personally or in their ministries, I think is really helpful.
Yeah, I think it is very helpful. And I have to admit, some Monday mornings, it's a little overwhelming. I'm thinking I can't look at these right now, but that's okay. Because I know it's there. It's been set up for me. And if there's something that I need to look at, that it will be there for me to take some action on. And so again, my sense that what you're helping the sisters, the Daughters of Charity in the United States do is really important, and that your help is, helping us. I guess your work is really helping us find those impactful areas and to be able to focus on them when we do have those times outside of our day-to-day ministry, or to look at our day-to-day ministries a little more intentionally. Like, what are we seeing and what do we need to do? And so all of those pieces are very, very important. And I know that we are incredibly grateful for your work with us and your assistance. And so for those Daughters of Charity listening who don't know anything about what Rachel was doing, you do now. And I hope that you'll reach out to her. Don't overwhelm her email, but you reach out to her and see how you might be able to get involved, because it's not just the work of the subcommittees, right? It's the work of the whole United States Daughters of Charity, and that's also enormous for you. But we appreciate it. So I have a kind of one last question. And this is probably opening a can of worms in some ways, but so my question is this: we have these 6 stances. If we were to have a 7th, or the day we eradicate hunger, right? And the day we, feel that immigrants are being welcomed and their lives are being protected, and we are able to promote, when we feel completed, which, you hope that can happen, right? There's nothing about taking on a stance and saying this is going to be for the rest of our lives. We hope that our efforts to eradicate hunger will become real, right? To be realized. What is one issue that you think is emerging, right? We're always looking at the signs of the times. We're looking at, all those kinds of things. What's emerging that you think is going to be kind of the next issue, or an issue that maybe weaves through all of these, that we need to not do another corporate stance on necessarily, but that's also important for us to spend some time thinking about? And so this question really helps us to say these stances are not the end all and be all, right? Just because they're now on paper, they don't just sit flat and we do little things, but they help us to emerge and to observe emergence in the world, because suffering and vulnerability doesn't stop. And so what would that be? What would you think?
Yeah, so I'm going to name something that's very large
Sorry,
That's
we're into large
intentional.
right now. We are just
Yeah.
the huge
So,
issues.
I mean, I think, one of the things, and I think that in this current moment, it's easy to see why I'd say this, but I think honestly, violence is an issue that, I think, and the reason I picked such a broad term is because I think that there are so many things that currently we so many different manifestations of violence, I guess. I think obviously gun violence is such a huge issue in the United States right now. We just had the Safer Communities Act signed into law, which was, a good, heartening, bipartisan step forward. But, I don't think anyone, thinks that our problem is solved, right? With gun violence. So, and there's just layers to, the issues with gun violence even. But then, thinking too about violence in relation to war, and, you can't, I mean, just with the situation in Ukraine, and with wars in countries around the world that don't even get Western press, or at least not press in the United States. I just, as we kind of continue to observe what's happening, I mean, I just think that violence is, it's such a pressing issue on so many levels. How do we reflect on that? How do we think about the ways in which, our society is violent, and even in ways that are maybe not, as direct, right? Anyway, so I think, that's really what's been on my mind recently. And just, there's just, as with all of these issues, it's so interconnected to so many different things. You think about the war in Ukraine and the way in which it is, directly causing a global food crisis for the most vulnerable countries. I mean, so like every issue, they're all intersectional. And I think that, I should say that's one of my hopes as we move forward with the subcommittees is, that we can maybe, kind of weave some of these issues together, find points of collaboration where, perhaps there are, initiatives or events, between the, climate, the Care for Earth and immigration subcommittees on, climate change and displacement, and, how one fuels the other. So anyway, one of my hopes for the subcommittees is that, we can start to think about too, how these issues are interrelated, and really, kind of push out education and action related to that.
That's great. I love that. And I think kind of ending on that hope, ending in that place, because, we could go on. And, I think your answer, your reflection around violence is really spot on in relation to what's happening in the world, and how it does weave kind of its evil finger and impact throughout all of these subcommittees and all of these issues and social justice concerns. And that hope of integrating or interweaving and collaborating among the subcommittees is one that I will keep in my prayer for sure, because I do think that will be important as we continue on. And so, let the collaborating begin, right? Yeah.
Amen.
Let's get them together. Yeah. That's great. So thank you so much for being with me today, and sharing not just your job, but your passion. And and I hope that our appreciation for your work with us, for your assistance in helping us and helping facilitate our movement toward impacting vulnerable people. We're just very, very grateful for that. And so blessings on you and your continued work. And I will continue to talk with the sisters about that sense of collaboration among the subcommittees. And I hope we get to meet in person one day, either in the beautiful Northeast or in St. Louis. Yeah, that'll be it. You'll have to come out and spend some time with the seminary sisters, maybe. Maybe we'll see
Yes,
about
absolutely.
That. Yeah,
I would love that.
Great. That would be
That
great.
would be wonderful.
So again, Rachel, thank you so much for all that you do, for who you are, and just for the way we are marching on, trying to eradicate these big issues in the world. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.